The night sky above Montana's wilderness shimmered with an eerie red hue as Aaron Blake leaned on the porch railing of his secluded cabin. His eyes locked onto a blazing streak cutting through the heavens, a fireball weaving erratically through the clouds. At first, he thought it might be a meteor, but meteors didn't swerve mid-flight. This object zigzagged like it was wounded before plunging behind a distant ridge, disappearing in a blinding explosion. The ground trembled beneath his feet. Years as a search and rescue pilot had trained Aaron to act without hesitation. His body moved on autopilot, grabbing his emergency bag and a flashlight. Retired or not, his instincts to help were a part of him. The crash site wasn't hard to locate. A deep trench scarred the forest, lined with shattered trees and smoldering debris. As Aaron stepped into the destruction, the beam of his flashlight swept over what could only be described as alien. A sleek, metallic hull, adorned with strange markings that glowed faintly in the dark. Steam hissed from the wreckage. His radiation detector hummed softly in the quiet, but the readings were safe. Edging closer, he called out, "Anyone alive in there?" A faint pounding echoed from inside the ship. His heart leapt. Someone or something had survived. After circling the hull, he found a hatch, its surface warped but intact. The lever-like mechanism gave way under his gloves, and the hatch hissed open, releasing a cloud of acrid smoke. Inside, illuminated by the flickering lights of the wreck, lay a figure that stopped Aaron in his tracks. She was tall, nearly 7 feet, with sleek, purple-toned skin that shimmered under his flashlight. Plates of natural armor covered parts of her body, and long, deep gashes oozed a glowing blue liquid. Despite her alien appearance, she was unmistakably female. Her eyes fluttered open briefly, revealing irises of radiant silver that seemed to swirl like galaxies. She tried to speak, but the words were lost to unconsciousness. Aaron moved quickly, pulling her from the wreck. Despite her size, she was shockingly light. Back at the cabin, Aaron worked through the night, cleaning her wounds and improvising medical care with what little knowledge he had. By dawn, she was stable. Exhausted, he slumped into his chair, unsure of what to expect when she woke. The loud thud of the alien rolling off his kitchen table jolted Aaron awake. She crouched low, her silver eyes scanning the room like a cornered predator. Aaron raised his hand slowly. "Easy there. You're safe," he said. Her voice was deep and melodic, but the words were incomprehensible, like crystal notes fused with a storm. Frustrated, she touched her throat, then pointed at herself. "Tara," she said clearly. "Aaron," he replied, mirroring her gesture. She straightened, towering over him, and examined the bandages covering her wounds. Her expression softened, and she pointed from the bandages to him. "Yes, I helped you," Aaron said, miming a patch-up job. At the mention of her ship, Tara's expression grew sharp. She tried to stand but faltered, her legs still weak. Aaron caught her, their eyes locking for a moment. Her gaze lingered on him, as if seeing something deeper. Over the next day, Tara's grasp of English accelerated at a breathtaking pace. She explained that her species, the Luminari, had advanced cognitive abilities, including rapid language acquisition. "I am warrior class," she told him, her voice gaining strength. "Ship attacked by rivals. Escaped. Crashed." Her curiosity about Earth was boundless. She marveled at the dense forests, tasted soup with wide-eyed amazement, and commented that her homeworld was a barren landscape of stone and metal. But her fascination didn't end with the planet. It extended to Aaron himself. "You a pilot?" she asked, pointing to a photo of him beside a rescue chopper. "Yeah, now I just protect the mountains." "Guardian," she said, her tone reverent. "Respected role." Her wounds healed rapidly, her alien physiology far outpacing human recovery rates. Soon, she was strong enough to return to the wreckage. Together, they dismantled her ship to ensure no human would find the technology. The task forged an unlikely bond between them. Tara admired Aaron's resourcefulness, and he was awestruck by her physical strength and determination. 3 nights later, as they sat by the fire, Tara addressed him with a gravity that made Aaron set down his coffee. In my culture, life debts are sacred, she began. When one warrior saves another, it is the foundation of a bond, unbreakable. Aaron raised his hands. You don't owe me anything. I just did what anyone would. No, she said firmly. Many would fear. Attack. You helped. That shows great strength of heart, of mind. Her silver eyes bored into him. You are exceptional. Aaron shifted uncomfortably under her gaze. Thanks, I guess. Tara stood, her towering presence suddenly intimidating. Among the Luminari, strength must be preserved. Enhanced. Warriors choose their mate to create superior offspring. You are ideal. Aaron choked. Wait, what? I demand rights to your offspring, she said proudly, her tone carrying no trace of irony. Aaron's jaw dropped. Tara, on Earth, we don't exactly do things that way. Explain? We date. Get to know each other. Fall in love. Tara tilted her head thoughtfully. Love. A bond forged through shared experience. Deep trust. Something like that, Aaron muttered. Her expression brightened. We have this. You saved me. We fought together to destroy my ship. We shared meals. Talked many hours. You were strong. I am strong. Perfect match. Aaron laughed nervously. Humans like to take things slow. Tara crossed her arms, a bemused smile on her lips. Humans make everything slow. Starborn are direct. You would make strong offspring. Despite himself, Aaron found her earnestness both flattering and exasperating. He ran a hand through his hair, realizing his quiet mountain life had just taken a wildly unexpected turn. Tara grinned, the first hint of playfulness in her demeanor. You consider. I wait. But know this, Aaron Blake, you have already impressed me. And that is not easy. As she stared at him with those swirling silver eyes, Aaron knew his life would never be the same. The next morning, Aaron woke to the smell of something burning. Groggy, he stumbled out of his bedroom to find Tara crouched near his stove, holding what looked like a skillet filled with blackened, unidentifiable lumps. Smoke curled lazily toward the ceiling, and she appeared utterly unfazed. What are you doing? Aaron asked, coughing as he opened a window. Making food for mate, she declared proudly, her silver eyes gleaming as she pointed to the charred remains. Earth custom, yes? Aaron pinched the bridge of his nose, trying not to laugh. Not exactly. Cooking isn't supposed to involve incineration. Tara frowned and inspected the skillet with a critical eye. Strange custom. Fire must consume to create energy, yes? More fire, more energy. Efficient. She looked at him expectantly, like she'd just solved a great mystery of human cuisine. Aaron sighed, grabbing the pan from her and dumping the contents into the trash. How about I cook breakfast? No offense, but I think your culinary skills need work. Tara tilted her head, watching him with fascination as he cracked eggs into a pan and started frying them. Cooking requires precision, like battle. Interesting. I wouldn't call egg. Tara leaned closer, inspecting his movements like a general studying troop formations. You approach this task with focus. Control. Good traits for mate. Aaron paused mid-flip and turned to her, eyebrows raised. Are you going to keep doing that? Doing what? Evaluating me like I'm a prize cow at a fair. Tara looked confused for a moment before a sly grin spread across her face. I do not know this cow, but if it is strong and valued, then yes. Aaron laughed despite himself. You're impossible. I am efficient, she corrected, as though it were the same thing. Over the next few days, Tara's presence became both a blessing and a challenge. On one hand, her sharp intellect and boundless curiosity made her a quick learner. She mastered the use of a smartphone within hours and even helped repair the solar generator behind his cabin. But on the other hand, she was blunt to the point of awkwardness and completely unfiltered when it came to expressing her thoughts. During a supply run to the nearest town, a modest settlement tucked into the foothills, Aaron quickly realized the downside of bringing a 7-foot-tall alien warrior who didn't quite grasp the concept of subtlety. As they entered the general store, Tara's eyes darted around, taking in every shelf and display. Primitive tools, she observed, picking up a can opener. But functional. The clerk, a middle-aged woman named Marcy, looked up from the counter and froze, her gaze fixed on Tara's purple-tinted skin and imposing figure. Aaron, who's your friend? Before Aaron could deflect, Tara stepped forward and extended a hand. I am Tara of the Luminari. Warrior class. Marcy blinked, glancing between Tara and Aaron. Luminari? Is that Scandinavian? Aaron coughed. You could say that. She's visiting from very far away. Tara frowned. Your deception is unnecessary. I am alien. Aaron saved me from Crash. Now I study your world. Marcy stared at her, then at Aaron. Is this some kind of joke? Did you hire her for a Renaissance fair or something? Aaron forced a laugh. Yep, Renaissance fair. She's very committed to the role. Tara shot him a look but said nothing, apparently deciding to let him handle the situation. Once they left the store, however, she was less forgiving. Why did you lie? She asked, her tone carrying a hint of accusation. Because humans aren't exactly ready to meet aliens, Aaron explained, loading the supplies into his truck. If people knew who or what you really were, it would cause panic. Tara considered this, her expression thoughtful. Humans are fragile, fearful, but you are not. Aaron shrugged. I guess I'm the exception. She smiled faintly, a rare softness in her expression. Another reason you are worthy. Back at the cabin, Tara's courtship efforts escalated. One evening, as they sat by the fire, she handed him a sleek, metallic object, one of the few intact pieces salvaged from her ship. It was intricately etched with glowing symbols that shifted when Aaron turned it in his hands. What is this? He asked. A token of intent, Tara said, her tone solemn. Among my people, it is given when a warrior chooses a mate. Aaron groaned inwardly. Tara, we've talked about this. Humans don't rush into things like this. Your caution is admirable, she said, her silver eyes locking onto his. But unnecessary. We are compatible in all ways. Aaron set the token on the table, leaning back in his chair. Tara, you barely know me. What if I'm not as great as you think I am? Her gaze didn't waver. You are greater. You see yourself as small, but you are not. I have seen strength, courage, kindness, traits that make a warrior and a mate. Aaron rubbed the back of his neck, unsure whether to feel flattered or overwhelmed. You don't take no for an answer, do you? No, Tara said simply, leaning forward with a predatory grin. But I will give you time. Humans are slow, after all. He laughed despite himself, shaking his head. You're relentless, and you are worth it, she said, her tone uncharacteristically soft. As the fire crackled between them, Aaron realized that despite the absurdity of his situation, he didn't entirely dislike the idea of Tara sticking around. Maybe, just maybe, this alien warrior was starting to grow on him. But he also knew that their quiet life in the mountains couldn't last forever. Sooner or later, Tara's presence would draw attention, and when that happened, their lives would get a whole lot more complicated. The morning began peacefully enough. Aaron was chopping firewood behind the cabin, the rhythmic thunk of the axe cutting through the cool mountain air. Tara sat nearby, cross-legged on a boulder, her sharp eyes scanning the horizon. She had taken to acting as a self-appointed sentry, ever alert for threats, whether from the forest or the stars. You know, Aaron said between swings, you don't have to stand guard all the time. We're not exactly in hostile territory. Tara tilted her head, her silver eyes narrowing. You think the forest is safe? I see signs of predators. Predators? Aaron asked, pausing mid-swing. Yes, she said, pointing to a broken branch near the tree line. Large creature. Heavy. Likely hunting. Aaron squinted but saw nothing out of the ordinary. That's just a deer trail. The biggest predator around here is a black bear, and they don't come near the cabin. Tara gave him a skeptical look. Complacency kills. I will remain vigilant. Aaron chuckled and returned to his chopping. Suit yourself, warrior. The tranquility didn't last long. Later that afternoon, while Aaron was repairing the fence near his cabin, Tara suddenly stiffened, her entire body tensing like a coiled spring. Someone is approaching, she said, her voice low and serious. Aaron straightened, following her gaze. How can you tell? She tapped her ear. Heightened senses. Vehicle. 2 occupants. Armed. Aaron frowned, setting down his tools. Sure enough, a faint rumble of an engine grew louder, and moments later, a dusty black SUV emerged from the forest road. It came to a stop just outside the cabin, and 2 men stepped out. Both were dressed in unmarked tactical gear, their movements brisk and calculated. One carried a tablet, the other a sidearm that wasn't quite concealed beneath his jacket. Their matching crew cuts and intense expressions screamed government, and Aaron's stomach sank. "Stay inside," he murmured to Tara. "No," she replied firmly, already moving to stand beside him. "I protect." Aaron sighed, knowing there was no arguing with her. He stepped forward to meet the men, doing his best to appear calm and unbothered. "Can I help you?" he asked. The man with the tablet spoke first, his tone clipped and professional. "Aaron Riley? That's me. I'm Agent Walker. This is Agent Steele. We're with a special investigative unit. May we come in?" Aaron forced a smile. "What's this about?" Walker's expression didn't change. "We're following up on reports of a meteor crash in the area. Witnesses described unusual activity. We'd like to ask you a few questions." Aaron's heart pounded, but he kept his face neutral. "I didn't see anything. Just heard a boom and figured it was a rock from space. Happens all the time, right?" Walker's eyes flicked past him to Tara, who stood a few paces back with her arms crossed. She radiated an aura of barely restrained menace, her towering frame impossible to ignore. "Who's your friend?" Steele asked, his hand inching closer to his sidearm. Aaron swallowed hard. "This is Tara. She's a hiking buddy. Came up here to get away from the city for a while." Tara stepped forward, her gaze piercing. "You carry weapons into peaceful territory. Why?" Steele stiffened, his hand now firmly on his holster. "Standard procedure, ma'am." Walker held up a hand to calm the situation. "We're not here to cause trouble. Just need to confirm some details." Aaron tried to steer the conversation back on track. "Look, I don't know what you're hoping to find, but it's just me and Tara out here. No aliens, no secret tech. Just trees and bears." Walker studied him for a long moment before glancing at Steele. The 2 agents exchanged a silent look. Then Walker nodded. "We appreciate your cooperation," Walker said, though his tone suggested he didn't entirely believe Aaron. "If you see or hear anything unusual, you'll let us know?" "Of course," Aaron replied quickly. With that, the agents returned to their SUV and drove off, disappearing down the forest road. Aaron exhaled, tension draining from his shoulders. "That was too close," he muttered. Tara frowned. "They suspect something. Their movements are cautious, but not random. They will return." "Yeah, I figured as much," Aaron said. "Which means we need a plan." Later that evening, the 2 of them sat by the fire, discussing their next steps. Tara was uncharacteristically subdued, her usually confident demeanor replaced by a pensive silence. "They will not stop," she said finally. "Your kind values secrets more than lives. If they find me, they will take me. Experiment." Aaron nodded grimly. "That's why we have to stay off their radar. No more trips into town, no contact with anyone outside this mountain. If they come back, we'll be ready." Tara tilted her head. "You would fight them?" "If I have to," Aaron said. "I didn't save you just to hand you over to some shadowy government agency." Her gaze softened, and for a moment, her fierce warrior persona gave way to something more vulnerable. "You risk much for me?" Aaron shrugged. "It's what I do." "No," Tara said firmly. "It is who you are." The firelight danced in her silver eyes, and Aaron felt an odd warmth spread through his chest. He quickly looked away, breaking the moment. "So, what's your plan if they come back?" he asked, steering the conversation back to practical matters. Tara's expression hardened. "I will not be taken. I will fight. Protect." Aaron sighed. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. But deep down, he knew the agents wouldn't give up so easily. And as he glanced at Tara, he realized that his life had become more complicated than he'd ever imagined, and that he wouldn't trade it for anything. The quiet hum of the forest surrounded Aaron and Tara as they worked under the cover of night. The moon cast silvery light over the dense trees, broken only by the flicker of their small, carefully shielded lantern. "We need to make sure the crash site is completely hidden," Aaron said, crouched beside a charred piece of alien metal. "Walker and Steele will come back, and they'll bring more people with better tools." Tara nodded, her sharp features lit in the glow. "Your assessment is accurate. Humans are persistent, but this place is difficult terrain for them. We can use that." Aaron straightened, wiping sweat from his brow. "Yeah, but we're on a clock. If they get aerial scans, this trench is going to light up like a Christmas tree. Any ideas?" Tara knelt beside him, running her armored fingers over the scorched earth. "Your explosives. Do you still have them?" Aaron blinked. "How do you know I have explosives?" She shot him a sly look. "Your tools and supplies. I observed them." Aaron groaned. "Right? Nothing gets past you." "Yeah, I've got some dynamite left over from clearing old mining trails, but how does that help?" "We collapse the terrain," she said simply. "Turn the trench into natural rockfall. If it looks like a landslide, they will not suspect." Aaron considered the idea. "It's risky. If we screw up, we could end up buried ourselves." Tara gave him a fierce grin. "Risk is acceptable for survival. Besides, you were skilled. I trust your judgment." By dawn, they had set their plan into motion. Aaron spent the morning rigging the explosives, carefully placing charges along the unstable cliffside above the trench. Tara assisted, moving boulders and clearing brush with her inhuman strength. Together, they worked in near silence, a shared understanding driving them forward. As the sun began to set, Aaron double-checked the detonators. "This should do it," he said, his voice edged with nervous energy. "Once it goes, the trench will be buried under a ton of rubble. No one will be able to tell there was ever a crash." Tara surveyed their work, nodding approvingly. "You are resourceful. A strong trait." Aaron smirked. "You've said that before. Starting to think you like me." Tara tilted her head, her silver eyes twinkling with amusement. "Among my people, honesty is strength." "I see your worth." Aaron Riley. "You do not need to doubt it." He wasn't sure how to respond, so he simply nodded, focusing on the task at hand. "Let's get back to the cabin. Once we're in a safe spot, I'll trigger the charges." As night fell, Aaron and Tara stood on the porch of the cabin, the detonator in Aaron's hand. The forest was eerily quiet, as if the animals sensed what was coming. "Ready?" Aaron asked. Tara crossed her arms, her expression calm but intense. "Do it." Aaron took a deep breath and pressed the button. A second later, the mountainside erupted in a deafening roar. The ground trembled as rocks and debris cascaded down, obliterating the trench and burying the remnants of the alien ship beneath tons of rubble. When the dust settled, the area looked like the aftermath of a natural landslide. Aaron exhaled, his heart pounding. "Well, that's that. Hopefully it'll keep them off our backs for a while." Tara smiled faintly. "You underestimate your enemies. They will search harder now." Aaron frowned. "You're not exactly filling me with confidence here." "I speak truth, not comfort," she replied. "But we are ready for them." Their moment of relief was short-lived. 2 days later, while Aaron was stacking firewood behind the cabin, Tara appeared at his side, her expression grim. "They are here." Aaron froze. "The agents?" "Yes, and more." He followed her gaze to the forest road, where several black SUVs were approaching, their headlights cutting through the shadows. This time, the convoy included more than just Walker and Steele. There were at least a dozen heavily armed men, along with a strange, boxy vehicle that hummed with an unfamiliar energy. Aaron's stomach twisted. They brought some kind of tech, probably for scans. Tara's hand rested on the hilt of her blade, a sleek, alien weapon she had recovered from the crash. "Agreed," Aaron said, his mind racing. "But fighting them head-on isn't an option. We need to outsmart them." Tara nodded, her eyes gleaming with determination. "I will draw them away." "What? No!" Aaron snapped. "That's suicide. They'll capture you. Or worse." Tara placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch surprisingly gentle. "I am stronger, faster. They cannot take me easily." Aaron shook his head. "And if they do?" I'm not letting you sacrifice yourself. She hesitated, her expression softening. You have courage, Aaron Riley. It is rare among your kind. Before he could respond, a loudspeaker crackled to life from one of the SUVs. This is Agent Walker. We know you're here. Step out with your hands up. Aaron cursed under his breath. They're not messing around. Tara's grip tightened on her blade. We fight. No, Aaron said quickly. Not yet. Let me handle this. Aaron stepped out into the clearing, his hands raised in a show of compliance. Walker and Steele stood at the forefront, flanked by heavily armed operatives. The strange boxy vehicle hummed louder, and Aaron realized it was some kind of portable scanning device. Afternoon, gentlemen, Aaron said, trying to keep his voice steady. What brings you back to my neck of the woods? Walker's expression was cold. Cut the act, Mr. Riley. We've detected unusual energy signatures in this area. We know you've been in contact with something, or someone not of this world. Aaron forced a laugh. Energy signatures? Out here? You're more likely picking up an old mine shaft or some bad wiring in my cabin. Walker wasn't amused. We're done playing games. If you don't cooperate, things will escalate. Aaron's mind raced. Behind him, hidden in the shadows of the trees, he knew Tara was watching, waiting for his signal. He just hoped he could buy enough time to figure out their next move. Well, Aaron said, stalling. If you're looking for something weird, you've come to the wrong place. Just me and the squirrels out here. Walker's eyes narrowed. We'll see about that. As the scanning device began to pulse, Aaron's pulse quickened. Whatever happened next, he knew one thing for certain. The peaceful life he'd once known was gone, and the fight for survival was just beginning.